My name is Jordan Williams, and at 32 years old, I had grown accustomed to being interrupted. As a mid-level product manager at Nexus Technologies, a software development company with 800 employees, I had learned to navigate the complex dynamics of corporate meetings where voices competed for attention and airtime was often determined by seniority rather than substance. It was a rainy Wednesday morning in September when everything changed. I was sitting in conference, room C on the 14th floor, surrounded by 12 other managers for our monthly product strategy meeting. The room had that familiar corporate smell of coffee and dry erased markers, with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the bustling downtown district. Our Chief Product Officer, Michael Harrison, was leading the discussion about our upcoming product roadmap for the next fiscal year. Nexus Technologies specialized in enterprise software solutions, generating approximately $47 million in annual revenue from our suite of productivity and collaboration tools. We need to discuss the integration challenges with our new AI features, Michael was saying, clicking through a PowerPoint presentation. The development timeline is aggressive, and we're facing some technical hurdles. I had been working on this exact issue for the past 3 months. Our AI integration project, codenamed Synapse, was designed to add intelligent automation features to our existing platform. But I had discovered some fundamental architectural problems that could derail the entire project if not addressed immediately. I raised my hand. Michael, I've been analyzing the Synapse integration, and I think we need to discuss some critical issues with the current approach. Jordan, let's table that for now, Michael interrupted, not even looking in my direction. We need to focus on the high-level strategy first. I lowered my hand, frustrated but not surprised. This was typical. Despite having 5 years of experience with our platform architecture and having led 3 successful product launches, my input was often dismissed or delayed in favor of more senior voices. The meeting continued with discussions about market positioning, competitive analysis, and resource allocation. Every time I tried to contribute, I was either interrupted or told we'd circle back to my points later, which never happened. 20 minutes into the meeting, Sarah Mitchell, our Senior Director of Engineering, brought up the exact issue I had tried to address. We're seeing some concerning technical debt in the AI integration, she said. The current architecture might not support the scalability we need. I leaned forward again. That's exactly what I was trying to mention. I've identified 3 specific bottlenecks that could impact performance by up to 40%. Jordan, we appreciate your technical insights, interrupted David Chen, our VP of Product Development. But we need to focus on strategic implications, rather than implementation details. But these aren't just implementation details, I persisted. These architectural decisions will determine whether Synapse can handle enterprise-level workloads. I've run extensive performance tests. Let's keep this at the strategic level. Michael cut me off again. We can dive into technical specifics in separate meetings. I felt my face flush with frustration. I had spent countless hours analyzing this problem, had developed solutions that could save the company months of development time and potentially millions in rework costs. But I couldn't get 30 seconds to explain my findings. The meeting dragged on for another hour, with the same pattern repeating. Senior managers would raise concerns. I would attempt to provide relevant insights based on my analysis, and I would be interrupted or dismissed. By the time we adjourned, nothing substantive had been decided about the AI integration, and the same problems I had identified 3 months ago remained unaddressed. As people filed out of the conference room, I gathered my materials, feeling defeated. That's when I noticed my phone buzzing with a notification. It was a direct message on our company's internal communication platform, Nexus Connect. The sender made my heart skip a beat. Amanda Rodriguez, our CEO. Jordan, I've been reviewing the Synapse project documentation and noticed your detailed analysis from last month. Your insights about the architectural challenges are exactly what we need to address. Can we schedule a call this afternoon? I'd like to discuss your recommendations in detail. I read the message 3 times, making sure I wasn't hallucinating. Amanda Rodriguez, the CEO of an 800-person company, was personally reaching out to me about my analysis. Amanda had founded Nexus Technologies 7 years ago and had grown it from a startup to a major player in the enterprise software space. She was known for her hands-on approach and technical background, but she rarely interacted directly with mid-level managers. I quickly typed back, "Absolutely, Ms. Rodriguez, I'm available anytime this afternoon. Thank you for reviewing my analysis." Her response came within minutes. "Great, let's talk at 3 p.m. And Jordan, your technical insights are exactly the kind of deep thinking we need for Synapse to succeed. Looking forward to our conversation." I stared at my phone, rereading the messages while my colleagues had been interrupting and dismissing my input. The CEO had been quietly reviewing my work and recognizing its value. The rest of the morning passed in a blur. I spent the time preparing for my call with Amanda, organizing my analysis, and creating visual presentations of the performance bottlenecks I had identified. I had discovered that our current AI integration approach would create 3 critical problems: database query inefficiencies that would slow response times by 35%, memory management issues that could cause system crashes under heavy loads, and API limitations that would prevent proper scaling for enterprise clients. More importantly, I had developed solutions for each problem. By restructuring the database queries, implementing intelligent caching mechanisms, and redesigning the API architecture, we could not only avoid the performance issues but actually improve overall system performance by 22%. At exactly 3 p.m., my phone rang. "Jordan, this is Amanda. Thank you for making time to talk." "Of course, Ms. Rodriguez. I'm honored that you reached out. Please, call me Amanda. I've been diving deep into the Synapse project, and your analysis from last month caught my attention. You identified some critical architectural issues that I don't think are being adequately addressed. Thank you for reviewing it. I've been trying to raise these concerns in our product meetings. But you're being interrupted and dismissed," Amanda finished. "I know I've been observing some of our meeting dynamics, and I'm concerned that we're not creating space for our best technical minds to contribute." I was stunned by her directness. "Jordan, walk me through your findings. I want to understand the full scope of the problems you've identified." For the next 45 minutes, I presented my analysis in detail. Amanda asked insightful questions, challenged my assumptions, and requested clarification on technical points. It was the most productive conversation I had had about the Synapse project in months. "Your performance projections are concerning," Amanda said after I explained the 35% slowdown issue. "If we launch with these problems, it could damage our reputation with enterprise clients." "Exactly. And the memory management issues could cause system failures during peak usage periods. For enterprise clients processing large datasets, this could be catastrophic." "What's your timeline for implementing the solutions you've proposed?" "With proper resources and support, we could have the architectural changes implemented within 6 weeks. Performance improvements would be measurable within 2 weeks of deployment." "Jordan, I want you to lead the technical remediation of these issues. You'll have direct access to our senior development team and whatever resources you need." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. "Amanda, I appreciate the confidence, but I should mention that I've been trying to raise these concerns in our regular product meetings without much success." "I know, and that's going to change." "Jordan, I'm scheduling a special session with the entire product leadership team for tomorrow morning. I want you to present your analysis to everyone." "Are you sure? I don't want to create conflict with the existing leadership structure." "Jordan, creating the right kind of conflict is sometimes necessary for progress. Your analysis is too important to be buried in meeting dynamics and hierarchy concerns." After we hung up, I sat in my office, staring out the window at the city skyline. In one phone call, Amanda had validated months of work that had been consistently dismissed by my immediate supervisors. More importantly, she had given me the platform to address the problems I had identified. That evening, I worked late preparing for the next day's presentation. I refined my slides, created additional visualizations, and prepared for every possible question or objection. This was my opportunity to prove that technical expertise and thorough analysis could triumph over meeting room politics. But I was also nervous. Tomorrow I would be presenting to the same people who had been interrupting and dismissing me for months. The difference was that this time, I would have the CEO's explicit support. I called my wife Lisa to share the news. "Jordan, this is incredible. The CEO personally reached out to you. I still can't believe it. She actually read my analysis and understood the implications. This is your moment, honey. You've been working on this problem for months while everyone else was focused on surface-level discussions. I'm nervous about tomorrow. What if they push back or try to undermine the presentation? Then you show them the CEO's message. You have her explicit support for this presentation." Lisa was right. I had something I had never had before in these meetings: unquestionable authority to speak. Amanda Rodriguez herself had requested this presentation. The next morning, I arrived at the office early to set up the main conference room. This was the largest meeting space we had, with seating for 20 people and state-of-the-art presentation technology. Amanda had invited not just the product leadership team, but also senior engineering managers, key developers, and department heads. At 9 a.m. sharp, people began filing into the room. Michael Harrison looked confused about why this special meeting had been called. David Chen appeared slightly annoyed at the disruption to his schedule. Sarah Mitchell seemed curious but cautious. Then Amanda walked in, and the room's energy shifted immediately. She took a seat at the head of the table and addressed the group. "Thank you all for making time for this special session. We're here to discuss some critical technical issues with the Synapse project that require immediate attention. Jordan Williams has conducted extensive analysis that I believe is essential for our success." She turned to me. "Jordan, the floor is yours." I stood up, feeling the weight of every eye in the room. This was my moment to prove that thorough analysis and technical expertise deserved a voice in strategic decisions. "Thank you, Amanda. Over the past 3 months, I've been conducting deep technical analysis of our Synapse AI integration project. What I've discovered are 3 critical architectural problems that could jeopardize the entire initiative." I clicked to my first slide, showing performance benchmarks and system architecture diagrams. Our current approach will result in a 35% performance degradation under typical enterprise workloads. Michael Harrison shifted uncomfortably in his seat. I could see him preparing to interrupt, but Amanda's presence kept him silent. I continued through my analysis, explaining each problem in detail and demonstrating the potential impact on our clients and our business. The room was completely silent, no interruptions, no dismissive comments, no attempts to redirect the conversation. When I reached my solutions slide, David Chen finally spoke up. Jordan, these are significant architectural changes. Have you considered the development timeline implications? Absolutely. David, I've worked with the engineering team to create detailed implementation plans. The changes can be completed in 6 weeks with proper resource allocation. Sarah Mitchell leaned forward. What about testing and validation? I've already conducted preliminary testing on the proposed solutions. The performance improvements are measurable and consistent for the next 20 minutes. I fielded questions from the entire leadership team, but this time, the questions were substantive, focused on understanding and evaluating my proposals rather than dismissing them. When I finished my presentation, Amanda addressed the room. This is exactly the kind of technical leadership we need for Synapse to succeed. Jordan has identified problems that could have cost us millions in rework and client dissatisfaction. She looked around the table. I want Jordan to lead the technical remediation effort with full support from all departments represented here. Michael Harrison finally spoke up. Amanda, while Jordan's analysis is thorough, I'm concerned about disrupting our existing project management structure. Michael, our existing structure allowed these critical problems to go unaddressed for 3 months. That's the disruption we need to avoid. David Chen tried a different approach. Perhaps we should form a committee to evaluate Jordan's recommendations. No committees, Amanda interrupted firmly. Jordan has done the analysis, identified the problems, and proposed solutions. He's going to implement them. The meeting, we concluded with clear action items and timelines. I was officially appointed as technical lead for Synapse remediation, with direct reporting to Amanda and authority to make necessary architectural decisions. That's people filed out of the room. Several colleagues approached me with congratulations and offers of support, but the most satisfying moment came when Michael Harrison stopped by my desk later that afternoon. Jordan, I owe you an apology. I should have listened more carefully to your concerns in our previous meetings. I appreciate that. Michael, I'm just glad we can address these issues before they impact our clients. For what it's worth, your analysis was impressive. I learned something today about the importance of creating space for technical expertise in strategic discussions. 6 weeks later, the Synapse remediation was complete. Not only had we solved the 3 critical problems I had identified, but our performance improvements exceeded projections. System response times improved by 28%, memory efficiency increased by 41%, and our API could now handle enterprise-scale workloads without degradation. The success of the remediation led to broader changes in how Nexus Technologies conducted product meetings. Amanda instituted new protocols ensuring that technical experts had dedicated time to present concerns and recommendations without interruption. 3 months after the Synapse remediation, I found myself in a position I had never imagined. Amanda Rodriguez had promoted me to Senior Technical Director, making me the youngest person in company history to hold that title. But more importantly, the cultural shift that began with that interrupted meeting had transformed how Nexus Technologies approached product development. It was a Tuesday morning in December when I received another message from Amanda that would change everything again. Jordan, I've been thinking about your success with Synapse and how we almost missed those critical insights due to meeting dynamics. I want to discuss a broader initiative with you. Can we meet this afternoon? I had learned to expect the unexpected from Amanda, but her messages still gave me a thrill of anticipation. At 2 p.m., I was in her corner office, surrounded by floor-to-ceiling windows and walls lined with industry awards and company milestones. Jordan, sit down. I want to talk about something bigger than just product development. I took a seat across from her desk, curious about where this conversation was heading. The Synapse situation made me realize that we have a systemic problem at Nexus Technologies. How many other brilliant insights are we missing because of poor meeting dynamics and hierarchical communication barriers? It's hard to quantify, but I suspect it's more common than we'd like to admit. Exactly, and I think you're the person to help us solve it. Amanda leaned forward, her expression serious. Jordan, I want you to lead a company-wide initiative to identify and eliminate communication barriers that prevent our best ideas from reaching decision-makers. That's single quotes a significant undertaking. What would that look like? I'm thinking of it as the voice amplification project. You'd work with HR, department heads, and employee resource groups to identify where good ideas are getting lost in the noise. She pulled out a folder thick with documents. I've been collecting data on this issue. Exit interviews, employee surveys, performance reviews. There are patterns that suggest we're systematically underutilizing our talent. I opened the folder and began scanning the documents. The data was compelling and concerning. 43% of departing employees cited feeling unheard as a primary reason for leaving. Employee engagement scores were lowest among mid-technical staff, exactly the people most likely to identify operational problems and solutions. Amanda, this data suggests the problem is bigger than just meeting interruptions. Much bigger. We're losing talent, missing innovations, and making suboptimal decisions because we're not creating effective channels for expertise to influence strategy. What kind of authority would I have for this initiative? Complete authority to investigate, recommend, and implement changes to our communication and decision-making processes. You'd report directly to me and have access to any department or data you need. I felt the familiar mix of excitement and intimidation that came with Amanda's assignments. When would you want to start? Immediately, Jordan. I believe this could be as transformational for Nexus as the Synapse remediation was for our product development. Over the next 2 weeks, I dove deep into the voice amplification project. I conducted interviews with employees at every level, analyzed meeting transcripts, and studied communication patterns across departments. What I discovered was both fascinating and troubling. The interruption problem I had experienced was just the tip of the iceberg. Our company had developed subtle but pervasive patterns that systematically silenced valuable voices. The hierarchy filter. Ideas from lower-level employees were often filtered through multiple management layers, losing detail and context with each translation. The confidence bias. Louder, more confident voices dominated discussions, regardless of expertise or insight quality. The meeting monopoly. A small group of senior managers consumed most of the speaking time in strategic meetings, leaving little space for diverse perspectives. The technical translation gap. Complex technical insights were often dismissed as too detailed for strategic discussions, even when they had major business implications. But most concerning was what I called the invisible expertise problem. Our most knowledgeable employees in specific areas were rarely consulted on decisions that directly impacted their domains. I documented dozens of examples. Maria Santos, a customer success manager, had identified a pattern of client complaints that predicted churn with 87% accuracy, but her insights never reached the product team. Kevin Park, a junior developer, had discovered the security vulnerability that could have exposed client data, but it took 3 weeks and multiple escalations before anyone listened to his concerns. The financial impact was staggering. I calculated that poor communication patterns were costing Nexus Technologies approximately $4.2 million annually in lost productivity, missed opportunities, and employee turnover. But I also identified solutions. Companies like Google, Microsoft, and Salesforce had implemented structured approaches to amplify diverse voices and ensure expertise reached decision-makers. The key was creating systematic processes rather than relying on individual initiative or luck. 3 weeks into the project, I presented my findings to Amanda and the executive team. This time, I wasn't nervous about interruptions. I had learned that preparation and executive support were powerful tools for ensuring your voice was heard. The data shows that communication barriers are costing us over $4 million annually. I began displaying my analysis on the main conference room screen, but more importantly, we're missing innovations and insights that could drive significant growth. I walked them through specific examples, showing how valuable insights had been lost or delayed due to communication failures. The room was silent as I presented case after case of missed opportunities. Jordan, these examples are compelling, said Patricia Williams, our Chief Operating Officer. But what's the solution? We can't eliminate all hierarchy and structure. You're absolutely right, Patricia. The solution isn't to eliminate structure, but to create systematic channels for expertise to reach decision-makers regardless of hierarchical position. I clicked to my recommendations slide. I'm proposing 5 specific interventions that have proven successful at other organizations. Expert advisory networks, formal systems for identifying and consulting subject matter experts on relevant decisions, regardless of their position in the organizational chart. Structured voice, time, dedicated portions of strategic meetings reserved for insights from technical experts and frontline employees. Insight, escalation protocols, clear processes for important insights to reach decision-makers quickly, bypassing traditional hierarchical filters, cross-functional innovation sessions, regular meetings designed specifically to surface and evaluate ideas from diverse perspectives. Communication, skills training, programs to help managers facilitate inclusive discussions and recognize valuable insights from different communication styles. What's the implementation timeline? Asked Robert Chen, our Chief Financial Officer. I recommend a phased approach over 6 months. We start with pilot programs in 3 departments, measure results, and scale successful interventions company-wide. Amanda nodded approvingly. Jordan, I want you to lead the implementation. You'll have a dedicated team and whatever resources you need. There's one more thing, I added. I think we should create a new role, Chief Voice Officer, someone whose job is to ensure that our best ideas reach our best decision-makers. The room was quiet for a moment. Then Amanda smiled. Jordan, congratulations, you just defined your next promotion. 6 months later, as Nexus Technologies' first Chief Voice Officer, I had overseen the implementation of all 5 interventions. The results exceeded our most optimistic projections. Employee engagement scores increased by 34%, with the largest improvements among mid-level technical staff. Voluntary turnover decreased by 41%, saving approximately $1.8 million in recruitment and training costs. But the most significant impact was on innovation and problem-solving. In the first 6 months after implementation, we identified and addressed 47 operational issues that had been known to frontline employees but had never reached management attention. We implemented 32 employee-generated innovations that improved efficiency and client satisfaction. The financial impact was dramatic. Our revenue grew by 23%, driven largely by product improvements and operational efficiencies that emerged from our enhanced communication processes. The success of the voice amplification project attracted attention from other companies and industry publications. Harvard Business Review published a case study about our approach, and I was invited to speak at conferences about organizational communication and inclusive leadership. But the most satisfying moment came during our annual company meeting, when Amanda addressed the entire organization. This year, Nexus Technologies achieved record growth and our highest ever employee satisfaction scores. She announced to the assembled 800 employees. This success came from recognizing that our best ideas can come from anywhere in our organization, and our job as leaders is to create systems that amplify those voices. She looked directly at me in the audience. Jordan Williams exemplifies the transformation we've undergone as a company. 18 months ago, he was being interrupted in meetings while trying to share critical insights. Today, he's our Chief Voice Officer, ensuring that every valuable idea gets heard and evaluated. The applause was thunderous, but what meant more to me were the conversations afterward. Employees at every level approached me, sharing stories of how the new communication processes had helped their ideas reach decision-makers and create positive change. Maria Santos, the customer success manager whose churn predictions had been ignored, told me that her insights were now incorporated into our product roadmap planning. Kevin Park, the junior developer who had struggled to report the security vulnerability, had been promoted to lead our security review processes. Jordan, Maria said, you didn't just change meeting dynamics, you changed our entire culture. People feel heard now. Today, 3 years after that interrupted meeting about Synapse, I serve as Chief Voice Officer for Nexus Technologies and consult with other organizations on inclusive communication strategies. Our company has become a model for how to systematically identify and amplify valuable insights regardless of where they originate in the organizational hierarchy. But the most important lesson I learned wasn't about communication processes or organizational design. It was about the power of persistence and preparation. When you have valuable insights, don't let interruptions and dismissals discourage you. Document your analysis, seek alternative channels, and remember that the right leader will recognize and support your contributions. The CEO's DM that changed everything wasn't just a message. It was validation that thorough analysis and genuine expertise will eventually find their audience. Sometimes you have to go around the people who interrupt you to reach the people who will listen. And when you finally get that platform, make sure you're prepared to deliver insights that are too valuable to ignore. Because the most powerful, the response to being interrupted isn't to speak louder. It's to speak with such clarity and insight that everyone has to listen. The interruptions didn't stop because I became more assertive or learned to talk over people. They stopped because I learned to build unassailable expertise and find the right channels to share it. When the CEO is asking for your input, nobody interrupts you anymore. Sometimes the best way to handle interruptions is to make yourself so valuable that people start asking for your voice instead of trying to silence it. And sometimes the most important message isn't the one you deliver in a meeting, that's the one that reaches the right person at the right time, even if it takes a DM from the CEO to make it happen.